Well, today, the race for the Democratic ticket is neck and neck in Iowa. According to a new Des Moines Register poll, Hillary Clinton leads Bernie Sanders by just 7 points. What could this mean for the frontrunner? Here for some analysis is CBS News congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes and political reporter for the Washington Post, Ed O'Keefe. Thank you both for being with us. Nancy, I'll start with you. What do you make of these new numbers?
You know, what I make of it, Elaine, is the fact that people in Iowa and elsewhere are genuinely, at least those who are Democrats, intrigued by Bernie Sanders, interested in what he has to say. You know, he's kind of running this very free-form campaign right now. He's holding big rallies. Those are the kinds of things that often generate excitement. Hillary Clinton isn't holding big rallies right now. She's doing much smaller events. So, you know, he's doing the kinds of things and saying the kind of things that get people excited, especially in these early months.
Ed, let me ask you, how much is this slide tied to Hillary Clinton's email controversy?
You know, there's some suggestion that that's part of it. I think a lot of it, though, has to do with the fact that Sanders has spent a good chunk of the summer visiting Iowa. You know, he surged up into the lead in some polls in New Hampshire very quickly, partly due to geography. You know, he's from the neighboring state of Vermont. In this case, he's now spent a few months introducing himself to Iowans who seem quite interested in him. Ann Seltzer, who's the pollster that did this poll, was on with us yesterday on Face the Nation, and she made the point to us that you know, part of this is that Democrats really want to love being Democrats again. They want to fall in love again like they did with Barack Obama during the 2008 cycle. They're not necessarily feeling that with Hillary Clinton. I think she's got a good point there, that he is bringing some passion, some energy, some newness to the campaign, despite his age, despite the fact that he's been in Washington for so long, simply because he's talking about things that Democrats really want to hear candidates talking about.
Nancy, let me ask you, the poll that we're looking at is based on voters in Iowa. How much will the emails matter if Hillary Clinton makes it to the general election here?
I think they matter now, and I think they could matter a lot in the general election, depending on where this investigation goes. You know, if the FBI sort of concludes its inquiry and says nothing to see here, move along, then the emails subside as an issue. If the FBI is still looking into them, if Republicans succeed in making them a big issue, both in the general election and on Capitol Hill as they continue their investigation into Benghazi, then they could continue to be an issue. Not so much because I think Americans are dying to know what's in those emails, but just because it sort of percolates in the background, and you see that it's having an impact when you look at things like this Quinnipiac poll that just came out that asked people what's the word that you most associate with Hillary Clinton, and the words that came up were things like untrustworthy, even greater than experienced. So it shows that while people aren't necessarily fascinated by every twist and turn in this email controversy, it is influencing their thinking.
Ed, let me ask you about Joe Biden. He is polling at 14%. He hasn't even announced yet. What do you think his presence in this poll is doing to the numbers?
Well, according to if you look at the sort of the deeper, if you do a deeper dive into the poll, it suggests that he's polling from both Clinton and Sanders, so that he would be offering essentially a third alternative in this race. He's not necessarily affecting adversely one or the other. It suggests, especially as a non-candidate, that there's definitely growing appeal. He's up from the single digits in Iowa just a few months ago, and while he continues mulling it, certainly he's going to have to take a look at this. Also notable that this poll was essentially being taken right as the coverage of the possibility of Biden became much more serious. And so I think we may have to wait till the next one, if one comes before he makes a decision, to really get a sense of how Iowa Democrats at least are reacting to him. I think nationwide, he's still certainly seen as another choice, perhaps the third choice among the other two. Also just really bad news if you're someone like Martin O'Malley or James Webb, who's also running and realizing that someone else might come in and get ahead of them very quickly.
Absolutely. Nancy, I want to turn to the Republican side. Donald Trump is leading with 23%. In Iowa. The season has been called the summer of Trump. Could we see the fall of Trump perhaps anytime soon?
If you're talking about the autumn of Trump, yes. If you're talking about fall as the decline of Trump, I think not yet. You know, he's clearly showed that he's got staying power, and he's tweaking his campaign a little bit to sort of show that he's in it for the long run. He's made some comments over the weekend indicating that he really isn't that interested in a third-party run. That's something that had concerned GOP leaders greatly. What I think is even more interesting, though, than that 23% that he has in that latest Iowa poll is, look at that. Ben Carson now second at 18%. Neurosurgeon Ben Carson, who we haven't even been talking about that much. We've talked a lot about Donald Trump. We've talked a lot about Jeb Bush, for example. Look, he's languishing back there at 6%. But Ben Carson is now in second. And that means that Scott Walker, who is the governor of neighboring Wisconsin, he grew up partly in Iowa. He was the front runner. He has now tumbled to third, way back at 8%. Tied with Texas Senator Ted Cruz. So you're really seeing a reordering, and I think it shows that GOP voters, at least right now, are hungering for non-politicians because you've got two non-politicians there at the top in Iowa right now, Donald Trump and Ben Carson.
Let me turn to you, Ed, really quickly. We have to go here pretty soon. But Donald Trump is a fascinating case for people who are watching this because many had predicted that his campaign would have imploded by now. But